Warning: the following video contains explicit language, which may be offensive to some viewers or inappropriate for children. The content within this video is intended for mature audiences only.
Got a video I want you to see, and I'll talk to you after that.
Now, I really hope that you know that ICE is just regularly detaining and even deporting US citizens, because it feels like the sort of thing that should be a bigger deal than it is. In fact, this report from Migrant Insider at that point had said that ICE had already deported at least 70 US citizens. And this isn't recent, and I know because we've cited that particular article previously here on the damage report. And so who knows what the actual number is these days. But as more and more people start to understand the threat that even US citizens are running afoul of Donald Trump's secret police, it starts to be a bigger problem, and people don't like that thing. And so in swoops Republican congressmen and senators to tell the American people, you should be fine with you being deported if that's the price of mass deportations. Now, we're gonna give you two examples. The first here is Ralph Norman.
Congressman, do you care if US citizens accidentally get detained in ICE raids?
Look, I'm so appreciative of what Tom Homan is doing to get illegals out of the country. No, I'm not concerned about that. I'm concerned about law and order in America, and I'm supportive about if you're an illegal, you don't need to be here.
But what if you're a citizen and you get detained? Like what? That seems to be happening a lot. Well, you don't care?
No, I don't believe that. He's getting the people out of here that should be out here, that should have never been allowed to come in. The Biden administration defied the Constitution and defied America. Really.
Well, a lot of citizens are getting detained in the dragnet, though, including veterans. So,
what about the gang members that get detained?
Well, I mean, if they're U.S. citizens.
This president and this Homan is doing such good things. I'm not going to criticize him for anything, particularly as it relates to deportation.
How the hell do you ever get elected after that? I mean, I kind of want to say like even as a Republican, but no, hold up. Especially as a Republican. So the secret police are out in force with massive new funding, faces covered. You don't get to know who they are. And they're just sweeping up people. They don't give a damn who they take. And they're locking up US citizens who have their passports, who have their documentation. And ICE tells them, get the hell out of here. I don't care about your documentation. You get the hell in there. Maybe someday your family will know where you are. And a Republican congressman is told that, and is told that veterans are being treated that way. And he doesn't even pretend to care. He said, nah, dude, like I'm trying to get my car. Like, why are you asking me this question? I don't care. And then the follow-up question, they're being locked up. Do you care about that? What about the gang members that are being locked up? Okay, yeah, but okay, I can play this game. I've played Uno. What about the veterans that are being locked up? He doesn't care. And much more importantly, he feels he doesn't need to care. It doesn't, and by the way, like I feel like I'm the only person that's been conscious for more than a year. The Republicans spent years with their AM radio shows and their Alex Jones about how the military is gonna be sweeping up US citizens and they're gonna be packing concentration camps full of them, and presented with the evidence that that's already happening. Republican politicians are just like, meh, whatever. And it's not just him. Tommy Tuberville goes maybe even more aggressive in this.
So, Senator, do you care if US citizens accidentally get detained in ICE raids?
If US citizens?
Yeah, it's been happening a lot. It's been happening a lot with veterans in particular. Yeah.
Well, first of all, don't put yourself in a situation where that happens, okay? And I'm sure with all the illegals we have in this country, you're going to probably have some mistakes happen. That's going to happen. But again, as long as we take care of it the right way, understand they are a system, let them go. But again, if you're going to be hanging around people that are not citizens of this country, some things like that are going to probably happen.
Is there anything people can do to take care of themselves? Like, you know, how can they do to prevent
Don't
that?
hang around illegals.
Okay.
Bottom line, because President Trump has said we're going to go after you. And at the end of the day, if you're in the wrong place at the wrong time, something bad could happen.
Yeah, again, how do you ever get elected again? Not just for what he said there, but just for being so goddamn stupid. Both of them, just so like obviously apathetic and stupid. You're being asked a question, and you don't even seem to understand that, like in a rational democracy, this is kind of a trap. A terrible thing is happening. Your job is to pretend that you care about our rights as citizens. You care, right, about the Constitution. Doesn't even pretend to. Like, oh yeah, no, you might be detained. Days might go by, a week might go by. You might literally be sent to South Sudan. It's your fault. You shouldn't have been hanging out with illegals. I'm sorry, where exactly in the Constitution does it say these rights are null and void if you're standing within 15 feet of a Guatemalan? Like, I don't remember that part of the Constitution. I haven't actually read the entire thing. I have that in common with most Republican senators, but I'm pretty sure that if I were to Google it, it's not in there. By the way, like that's an insulting thing to say, that like if you are with people who don't have documentation, you deserve to be locked up. But let's say that you took it seriously. What exactly does he think we're supposed to do? Like we're just supposed to normalize, I suppose, going around and asking people what their documentation is. Just everybody around you, you should be, hey, you're a citizen, right? Hey, you got your green card in order, right? You got a visa, right? That's the the conversation we should be having. Everybody should be terrified at all times that you could be locked up. And so you should just be worried about anyone around you who's darker than Stephen Miller. Just be worried constantly. That's the America that they're totally comfortable with. They don't even have to pretend to care about your goddamn rights. Look, I would love to see more Republicans have a little bit of consistency after decades of supposedly worrying about the big government crushing them under their heel. I'm just saying that like you're getting all the warnings you need. And by the way, quick reminder, as always, they're not going after the worst of the worst. It was never that. It's less that today than it's ever been. If you take a look at this, the blue line are the people who haven't even been accused of any crime. And look at the skyrocketing numbers of those people that are being detained. And the others are not murders. And they're not people that have done SA. These are literally any crimes whatsoever. Okay, if they were actually getting out the worst of the worst, they would be shoving it in our face every single day. The fact that they're not is proof that it was always a lie. They knew that there were never these hordes of migrant criminals. It was just a thing you campaign on to try to get some racist to vote for you. That's all it ever was.
Not surprising that he's still rounding up more Americans. And the fact that nobody, in his clan of criminals gives a shit suggests that, hey, as long as it happens to them and it ain't me, that's the attitude you get from some of these nuts. All right, we don't put these people in Washington so they can thumb their nose up at their voters. Okay, that's not the hell reason why we vote for these fuckers. And the idea that, so many of these politicians seem okay with people being picked up and without much regard for why they're being picked up. Just that, there's that 20 million people that Trump wants to get rid of in this country. That's the goal, and he wanted that done. So when they can't find enough illegal immigrants to fill that quota, they're going to start going after other people, for whatever reason. Like I said, everyone in this country should not feel like they're safe from being picked up by ICE. And no one should feel safe that their jobs aren't going to turn their back on them, like what happened with Stephen Colbert. This thing here about CBS sacrificing their golden goose here just so they could have that merger with Skydance because Trump was interfering with that, and he said he'd stop interfering if they get rid of Colbert. It's the biggest cowardice move ever made, I think, by CBS. I know they've done things in the past that would equate to that, but it doesn't look good for CBS when they did what they did, okay? But of course, this is really Paramount, which owns CBS, and there's blame to go around here. But, you know, Trump, he's the biggest whiner of all fucking whiners I've ever seen. I mean, I know Republicans used to say, Democrats always crying and whining about something. Well, we can't hold a candle to Donald Trump. This guy, he makes an art form of whining and crying and screaming foul all the damn time, every day. He's bitching about that. You know, the people, I don't like people picking on me, you know. So who's going to be next on the chopping block? Who's he going to blackmail next? I mean, is it going to be Jon Stewart? Is it going to be Jimmy Fallon? Everybody out there that's picking on him, what's he going to do? Shut everybody up? I thought this was a guy who said he loved the First Amendment. At least that's what he said last year in his campaign, right? Well, as long as the First Amendment protects him and, you know, basically wants to use it as a, you know, you cannot speak bad or ill of the president. Well, he should have known that every president we've ever had in this country, be it Democrat or Republican, has always been the spotlight for comedians and criticism. That goes without saying. If he didn't want to be criticized, he never should have ran for president, right? Well, when you're president, you open yourselves up to that. And doing what he's doing, especially with these ICE raids, you know, that's certainly not going to shut people up. Okay? If anything, the heat, the yelling, the anger is just going to climb and climb and climb. And of course, the anger, when you've got people that angry, they start looking at things that you did in the past, like the Jeffrey Epstein thing, and all of a sudden that looks it has a new light to it now. Before they were willing to just overlook it, well, now that they're angry at him, they're going to start looking at it. They're going to start looking at it, and they're going to start fucking taking a much more serious glance at the details. And you know what I'm saying? So there's the ammo is out there for people to pick up. If you're mad at Trump, there's all kinds of ways you can piss him off, because you know that's what he hates. And now that we know that his Achilles heel is his ego, all right, and he doesn't like being criticized, that's only going to encourage more people that hate him to make more criticism. So, like I said, he created this. He created this fucking shitstorm that's swirling around him now, and it's not going to go away quickly, and it's not going to go away. So, you know, what can we do? Just, we don't like what he's doing. So we all we have is our voices. All we have is our ability to protest. Okay? That's all we have. And if he tries to take that away from us, then that's only going to leave us with one other option. And that's civil disobedience. To rebel. Okay? To go after anybody that's wearing a badge, or anybody that's out there working for the government, be it military or whatnot. Everybody's going to be open game to, you know, make a statement that we don't like this government. This is not the American government we were taught about in school. This is a complete reversal of everything this country stood for. And we should not be doing this. Has there been a problem with immigration? Yeah, there has been. And it's not because the illegals coming into this country, it's because of the standards in which we have set for people to become citizens in this country. They are unreasonable. Okay? We've got it set so that way only wealthy people can come into this country and be a citizen. That's discrimination, right? I mean, because look, in the early days of America, people of all walks of life came into this country, and there wasn't much requirement to be a citizen then, okay? But somewhere along the way, somebody didn't like the idea of all these people coming here, and I think I know who they were. And they started fucking with that and making it more difficult and more expensive and more time-consuming to try to discourage people. So that left people with one choice, and that's to come across the border illegally, okay, to get here. So, like I said, this is unfair. You you know, with what he's doing, picking up people, the ICE getting people, you know, and people are getting mad at ICE now. Some of these ICE agents, you know, are feeling a little bit threatened now because they, you know, some of them have been attacked. Some of them, you know, some of these people are being driven away in big numbers. Even though the National Guard, I read that some of these National Guardsmen don't feel good about doing what they're doing to help ICE. Okay, some of these troops, they're going home, you know, feeling a little traumatized by what's happening. I mean, they're not physically doing the you know, the getting these people. They're protecting those that are, but they're watching, they're seeing with their own eyes on the ground what ICE is doing, and they're not happy with that. Okay, and I didn't, you know, like I said, military people come from all aspects of human life, and not all of them are behind this idea. They're following orders, yes, but they don't like it. They don't like it, and it wouldn't be too difficult for these people to just say, fuck this, I'm going to resign, I'm leaving the military. Some of these people won't re-enlist after they're done because they don't want to be part of this. They're saying recruitment is down, okay, to historic lows, and you know, yeah, of course it is, because they know if I join the military, I could be asked to bring in my parents, you know, or somebody I know to be deported out of this country, and I ain't going to do that. So hey, this is the way it goes. I mean, you know, when people back something, it sounds good at first. You know, we're going to get rid of the illegals, but then all of a sudden, it's not the only thing they're going to do. And he didn't say anything about all these other things he wants to do. You see? But see, I knew this guy was lying to us about that. And you never trust a liar. A liar once is always a fucking liar. All right? And this guy, Trump, he was saying all kinds of sweet things that MAGA wanted to hear. They were the suckers that he needed desperately in order to get into the White House, and he got them. And once he was in there, it's like, okay, I don't need you anymore, and he's going to start doing what he wants, according to what the Heritage Foundation wanted, which is, of course, Project 2025. That was the fucking people he was going to appease, not MAGA. So, like I said, this whole thing here with the immigration and stuff like that, it's become a problem, a big problem now, only because of the way this administration's handling this issue. It's not right, and I mean, you just can't go into some school and snatch kids out of their fucking classrooms the way they were doing it, and dragging them out of there, or going into colleges and doing the same there. You can't do that. That's not the way the government is supposed to work. That's the kind of shit you see in these third world countries, in the rest of the world, where the government is more authoritarian than, you know. But Trump, he thinks that's a good government over there. He would like that. And that's what he's trying to do here. But you know what? We never liked it then when these other countries did that, and we ain't gonna like it here either. So how do you think he's going to get support to continue this shit? 20 million people, everybody, that's the number. Do you think we're going to be happy at the end of that goal? You know he's not going to stop there. You know it. 20 million people ain't going to be enough to satiate that guy. He's going to go after other people. Soon he'll go after people that are in prison or something and deport them. But you know what happens when you do that kind of crap? Justice dies. Why? Because why do we have a justice system in the first place? Why? I mean, if we didn't have it, we could just, you know, shoot people that do us wrong, no matter how bad the crime is, right? But we have justice in this country for a reason, and that's to provide justice to people who have been done wrong, okay? And if you take the goddamn criminal and you allow him to escape to another country, that's justice denied for those people who the crime was committed to. Okay? They get no fucking satisfaction that, oh, this person's being punished. Being deported to another country is no punishment to them if they're going to escape prison. Okay? It might be they're going to prison, in another country. But what about the people here that never got to have their day in court? You take these people and you do that? No, I mean, come on, that ain't the way it's supposed to work. I mean, if this is how we wanted it in this country, we never needed courts in the first place, right? So I just feel like, Trump is aiding and abetting criminals. If any of these people were criminals that he deported, he's aiding and abetting. He's letting them leave this country so they don't have to stay in trial for, possible murder and stuff like that. Okay, they won't have to stay. You let them go somewhere else, and who knows? If they escape there, it's not going to matter to anybody. But hey, it's not the best way to do what he's doing here. Okay, they have to have their day in court. They have to go through the process, and that's that's actually for two reasons. First, to make sure that the people leaving are people who should not be here, and second, to make sure that those being picked up are not okay and should stay here. I mean, without that filter in place to make sure that everything is done right, okay, you're just, opening the faucet and letting the water run right out into the fucking house. I mean, it's ridiculous. You got to have countermeasures in place to make sure we don't screw up. And that old fart there that was sitting there saying, well, some people are going to get picked up and they shouldn't be hanging around folks that are illegal. Like, we ask people, oh, before I talk to you, are you illegal or are you a citizen? People don't do that. That fucking guy's probably got illegals hired to do his fucking yard and he don't even know it, or maybe he does. I don't know. But you just don't throw caution to the wind just because you want to see people out of this country. No. Okay? It's not your way or the highway. It never has been. And when you let the government do things like this, it always looks on the outside like a sledgehammer pounding a nail into the wall. Okay? It really does. Because it's not going to discriminate whether you hit that nail or not. That swing is going to drive that nail through the wall one way or the other. Whether it goes in straight or crooked doesn't matter. Okay? So this is why, I really, really despise why this fucking action that he's taken with ICE. Okay? If the day ever comes when we start to get things settled right in this country, we need to remember these days here. And maybe we ought to think about getting rid of that organization because they're not trained. These people are probably, deputized, people who were from January the 6th rioters, okay? Okay, we don't know because they cover their face. So how the fuck do we know? And like I said, they don't look like they're well trained. There doesn't seem to be a procedure. They go into a place, they're all carrying guns, like they're expecting a firefight at any moment. It's like, well, if you know who these people are, then you know they're not going to fight. But why are you going in there with machine guns and body armor like you're stepping into a war zone in the Middle East? This is ridiculous. Okay? Even the police don't act that way. Even a SWAT team doesn't act that way unless they know for sure that there's going to be some, foul play. Otherwise, they ain't going to do that. So these people don't look professional. They don't act professional. They're thugs in the way they handle things, pointing guns at people to, get away from me, get away. You don't do that. Okay? You do that, and hey, people start to say this guy's a criminal. He's not, if a police officer won't pull out a gun, he'll pull out a taser, but he won't pull out a gun as a first recourse to stop people from approaching him. No. They have procedures they got to follow. Should be the same for ICE. But we ain't seeing that. We're not seeing that. So we have every justification to assume that these people are not official. Okay? If they won't identify, won't show a badge, won't show anything like that, then they're not really official. And that's why I'm saying they have to change this. They have to change this to make it look right. Otherwise, this is not, going to end well for Trump. He's going to end up having a lot of blowback from this. And I see that coming. So anyway, that's all I wanted to say about that, and I'll talk to you guys later. Bye-bye.